Hey folks, it's Will. Today I wanted to talk about creating effective character backgrounds for your LARP characters. Now, this will work just fine for tabletop games or really, building characters for a variety of reasons. But the main focus of these, three C's of character creation that I have put together is to make sure that even if like you have a game where 500 people show up to it, providing this to the game runners should give you a chance for them to proactively include you or your background in story. I know that when I was creating, character backgrounds for like my very first characters, the writer in me hopped out and I'd produce these like 30 to 50 page novellas, basically, kind of exploring my character's entire background. And while that was definitely a useful journey for that character and it let me learn a lot more about them, if just a handful of people did that, that would eat a lot of time from my game runners that I was playing with. And I get it. Like, the stuff that's super interesting to me and may not be for the fastest reading. So at the end of this, you should be able to produce like a 1 to 2 page document that's got bullet points that kind of help the game runner or the story team or whatever you call them find a way to fold your story into existing continuities and have fun with it. So to start, there's 3 primary parts of this, three C's, because people like alliteration. They are concern, connection, and conflict. Now, concern is the stuff you care about, the stuff that you actively pursue. This could be a like if your character is concerned with like achievement and they want to push and like get the largest stack of money or the largest stack of bodies. That's something that you can set as something that's important to your character. Or maybe revenge stories are awfully lovely. And if you can communicate that in like a bullet point format, it'll be a lot easier for your story team to be able to put that out in the world for you. So other examples are, like if you're a wonderful humanitarian and that's something you care about, or maybe you have maybe you just want to be like the best thief in the world, or like the captain of the town guard, whatever, like have something you care about, so that other people can care about other different things. And once you have that, having something that you're connected to can give you a reason to interact with things. It like, where was your home? Like if this is a LARP set in your hometown or a tabletop event set in your hometown, then that kind of paints what sort of adventure that you're having. But if you are a bunch of people from different locations coming together in one spot, this is you can figure out what the customs are in your hometown and what other players might be interested in being from that town. And very often just having like a cool roleplay concept can get people to flock to a particular settlement that is completely fictional, and having people that create that and bring that into game is awesome. I love it when my players do that. So in stories, sometimes, sometimes people die. So who have you lost? Like, were they important to you? Were they, fields and fields of soldiers under your command? Were they, kids that you were babysitting? Like, what's happened? Like, what have you been connected to that has had connections severed? And the flip side of that is, who's still around? Because, like, the trope of like the lone wolf soul survivor, McBadass, like like if you're creating a protagonist for a book or a supporting character, for a tabletop event or something like that, cool. But for a live action role playing game where you are going to be joining other people, the soul survivors, the lone wolves, it's kind of exhausting. And we all think that that's it can be a really cool story to tell. Because in our apocalyptic fiction, Mad Max, stands out as a badass. So does Michonne. But they shine when they're with people, when they're connected to people. So if you want to have, I was a lone wolf and then I, decided that I want to be a part of something larger than myself, cool. And then you can have conflict with, always wanting to leave. But if that happens, like, play it out. Be okay with your character leaving play. But if you're trying to create a character that's for, I don't know, a campaign LARP, like a story that keeps going, you might find conflict within the very nature of the lone wolf ideal, and it gets kind of tiring. So as far as connection, do you have a faction? Do you have a crew? Do you have a organization to which your character can belong to that can give identity? Because that's very important. Just picking a faction. So, for example, in our setting in Dystopia Rising, Oklahoma, we have a lot of canon. Oklahoma canon factions that your players, your characters, your characters can be a part of. And when that happens, when you see your people as like the supporting cast come in, it's cool. It's cool to see, a bunch of people from, the Proud, like a paramilitary organization that's, part marching band come in, and you're like, hey, those are my folks. And, I build that connection. So the last thing, and a very important thing, is conflict. Conflict is an important part of telling stories. Now, depending on the nature of the LARP that you're going to, if it's a boffer LARP, there is a good chance that there is a player versus environment mechanism already set up. Maybe you have to fight zombies or raiders or goblins or brigands, whatever it happens to be. If it is if it is more of a narrated kind of LARP, then you can still have things that you come into conflict with. And having things that your character dislikes but you do not dislike that are fictional can help kind of push story, and also allow you to kind of be aware of these different conflicts that exist. And this is a bit of a challenge for some folks, because my advice for this is dislike choices that a character would have made. Do not, or attempt to avoid, if at all possible, things that a character could not control. Just like, and it's weird. It's a little bit of a fuzzy line because you decide what what part of the world your character's from, what they look like, if they grew up fabulously wealthy, or apocalypse middle class, or impoverished in some way. But your character didn't make those choices, so it's weird, and it's something that requires a little bit of deliberate thought. But the short version of it is dislike choices that characters make, not things that they couldn't make a choice about. So if somebody decides to become a mercenary, cool. You can totally be like, oh, you're a sellsword, you're terrible. Yeah, absolutely. If somebody if the character decides to leave a faction or turn their back on their group, yeah, absolutely. You can dislike them for that. Or if they decide to, leave somebody in the middle of the fight to just die, that's not great. You can dislike them for that. But dislikes, hatred, enemies, and this is usually the indicator that I've gone too long. So have all of these things, and I'm gonna try and put a form together to make it a little easier for folks, and I'll share it. But concern, connection, conflict, and have those like 1 to 2 pages, bullet points, and it gives you the option to the cat's trying to be cute. To fit yourself into a story, and it's digestible. Like, it's enough for a story team to like start bringing your story threads in. And yeah, I know. Cat. So that's building effective character backgrounds, the 3 C's. So if you have any comments, any observations, I would love to hear them. Thank you so much for listening to me for this long. You have a wonderful rest of your whatever time of day it is.